Hi again, everyone. So we've been talking about external Python libraries, but what could be more exciting than the Python NMAP libraries? NMAP, you say? What's NMAP? What is that? NMAP technically stands for network mapping and is a digital forensics tool for discovering possible weaknesses in web servers like Google, Bank of America, and basically name your least favorite company. Hello Chase, hello any political campaign website or company, right? It's basically one of the first technical steps toward potentially exploiting or harming a remote system, or it could help protect your local system. There's plenty of pen testers or penetration testers that are actually hired to help to attempt to exploit a company from within. And of course, NMAP is one of the first technical tools you're going to use to surveil or perform reconnaissance against a company. Now, when I say it's one of the first technical steps, what do I mean by that? What other steps are there? Well, when you're trying to be an ethical hacker, the technical aspect is only roughly 50% of the battle. The other 50% is utilizing things like social engineering. So, for example, some of the encryption standards out there are so severe. There are some encryptions out there that have literally never been hacked. Well, for example, there's the encryption that our government uses. It's never been hacked. Well, wait a second. If some of these encryption algorithms have never been hacked, why is it or how is it that it literally we are hearing seemingly every month on the news this huge hack that is attempting to be prevented? And there was a big Twitter hack years ago that affected Joe Biden even when he was vice president. So if these encryption standards haven't been hacked, how is it that all these people have been exploited? Why are there departments that are meant to stop security hacks? Why are there malware attacks that are attacking our data on a daily basis? If these algorithms haven't been exploited or haven't been cracked? And the answer is social engineering, social networking. So in other words, you con, quote unquote, somebody to download an attachment that they shouldn't have, and that compromises their internal system, and that is because you invite this attachment in via an email or a link that somebody presented and somebody clicked on and they shouldn't have. Then, for example, the WannaCry virus that ransoms your local data. Well, once you invite that virus into your system, you actually, you leap over, or you there's a word I'm looking for, but you circumvent any firewall rules you have in place, and you've now infiltrated the system just by clicking on the wrong link, and that could be devastating to your system. So I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent right here, but really NMAP, as I said, it's a way of discovering any potential vulnerabilities that exists outside the system or exists in an outside system. And as I said, people also get paid to help discover their own vulnerabilities. So how does NMAP work? Well, NMAP sends what they call a discovery packet. Okay, it sends a discovery packet to the remote system, or it sends a discovery packet to yourself. So in today's demonstration, what we're going to do is we're going to use the power of virtualization on my single MacBook. So my single Apple PC is going to be hosting both, number one, a Kali virtualized OS, and also it's going to host the new minimal version of Windows 11. Now it does this through the awesome virtualizer known as UTM. On the left side, you'll see is the Kali host. You can see that it doesn't show an IP address, but on the right side, you'll see it'll have my Windows operating system, and the IP address is shown as 192.168.64.3. Now notice I don't have an the IP address next to the Kali PC because, quite frankly, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in the same network as the destination. As a matter of fact, it's best that you aren't in the in the destination, because the primary value comes from the fact that you are in fact testing remote systems. Now, the other thing I wanted to caution, huge cautionary tale right here, that remember, at the end of the day, the NMAP is a network scanner. So systems such as firewalls are built to detect and react potentially to this type of network activity, and it may be treated as somewhat malicious. So you should never scan an outside network without their express permission and communication. For this reason, only use NMAP in things like capture the flag contests, in which you sign up and everyone knows the rules of the game. And if you don't know any organization personally, obviously you can contact an organization personally and say, hey, can I possibly, NMAP for education or academic purposes, or you can pay them or whatever. You can call them and say, hey, I'm offering a free network checkup or something like that. There are also these things called honeypots. So Google search for a honeypot, and these are websites that openly welcome things like NMAP scans and whatnot. They want you to throw basically everything but the kitchen sink, and including the kitchen sink, to them. And these are put forth a lot of times by universities or by think tanks, and they're actually looking to see how their own system reacts to certain requests, network requests. So let's take a look at how we can set this up. And more importantly, as I said, this is a Python class. So what we're going to do is, this is just a 1,000-foot point of view, so you understand what NMAP does, and then we'll enlist the power of Python and run a couple Python commands that are from the NMAP library. So on the left side, as I mentioned, this is my Kali desktop, and on the right hand side, this is my Windows desktop, all facilitated by UTM, and UTM is the virtualization app that is running in the background. The first thing we need is the IP address of this Windows machine. So for those of you that may not know, to get the IP address of any Windows machine, we go to the search Windows, and then we can type in CMD as in Charlie Michael Daniels. You can see that the command prompt is one of the first choices that comes up. I'll just press enter, and up comes the command prompt. We can type in IP config, and we can see that our IP address is in fact 192.168.64.3. So that is our target, and we can also target by domain name, but just to keep things simple, we'll just target by the IP address here, 64.3. So we say nmap 192.168.64.3, and we press enter, and it says that it's starting nmap, and we can just I might pause the video because it's going to take a minute or so for the results to come up. So I'll just pause the video until the results do come up. Okay, we can see the results, and we can see that it did scan all 1,000 scanned ports are in ignored states, although I'm sure there are more than 1,000 scanned ports. And we can see that one of the reasons why it does this is the fact we can go back to our search window right here and type in firewall and Windows Defender firewall, and we can see that the Windows firewall state is on. So we can then, for the purposes of this academic purpose or this academic endeavor, we can go ahead and turn off Windows Defender firewall and turn off the Windows firewall here and click OK, and you can see that the Windows security sends me an alert. But let's go back, and we can press up on our keyboard and go back to our nmap, and let's see what happens now. Aha! So now that and keep in mind, this Windows is basically a brand new installation, okay? And the only difference is I simply manually turned off the firewall. And what happens is once you turn off the firewall and an nmap is run against it, we now have these open ports. We have MSRPC, I believe that is the remote remote protocol that allows things like remote sessions like Zoom or something like that. And we have NetBIOS SSN and Microsoft DS. So these are the port numbers: 135, 139, and 445. So that is the value of of NMAP. So in other words, if you ran an NMAP program, and you can also not only run NMAP protocols against particular hosts, you can run NMAP protocols against entire networks, so entire subnets. So if you ran the NMAP against an entire subnet in an enterprise, in a company, you are going to wind up with several open ports, because even if the firewall is on, every time you install an application, like for example, if I installed Apache, Windows Apache, which is a web server in Windows 11, you would be instructed via the installation instructions to give it permission to open up port 80. And and of course, if I opened up port 80 on my Windows 11, you would see port 80 opened up here. So that's the value of NMAP. It gives you more information about a server. All right, I wanted to explain my setup here. I know it might seem non-intuitive, but here is the Windows you saw before on the right. So that is the OS that I want to NMAP. Now, I had Kali before, but I wanted to demonstrate how to install NMAP. And for Kali, NMAP already becomes pre-installed. So for those Windows users, you're going to have to install it. So actually, I have two different versions of Windows 11 being virtualized by UTM. So this is the actual Windows 11, and you can see the full version. This is the Windows 11 that I mentioned to you before, that is kind of like a minimal version that Microsoft kind of just came out with. Now, it's not going to be rolled out production-wise. I don't think it's kind of experimental. But if you took the storage amount of both of these, this Windows would be significantly less than this Windows. So what I intend to do is install NMAP on here, and then try to install Apache on here. The problem with this version of Windows 11, the minimal version of Windows 11, is that it lacks some dependencies. So I may or may not be able to successfully install Apache Windows Server, but we're going to go ahead and try it anyways. But this is the full version. I'm sure I can install Apache on this version of Windows, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it, but we will be downloading NMAP, and that at least will get us going. Now, whether we always want to on Windows, Microsoft Windows, we always want to use Firefox over and above Microsoft Edge, but that's only my opinion. That's not everyone's opinion. That's not the only answer. That's only my opinion. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna do a search for NMAP, and then we're gonna do downloads. And just so you know, this is almost a fresh copy of Windows, so you're not going to see anything in my search history. There's very little that has been installed on. I literally just installed Python and Notepad++. So anyways, we're going to click on NMAP. And that is the beauty of virtualizing OSs is that it's just your local. This is a MacBook, and my MacBook is just using both of these both of these instantations of Windows as nothing more than programs. And so what do you do if the program isn't acting correctly? You can just remove it. So you can delete these virtualized OSs, these child OSs, about as easily as you can delete any other file on your computer. But anyways, and you get the latest NMAP for your system. So we're on nmap.org. You can see nmap.org/download. And obviously, this is virtualized Windows 11. So I'm going to click on Windows, and let's see, latest stable release self-installer. This is what I want right here. And I don't know if we're going to need NPCap, but we shall see. We're going to download NMAP 7.95, and it's downloading. We're going to double click on it. Usually I would go to my downloads and double click on it there, but I just want to minimize my steps. And look at this, all this. And we want to make sure all this is checked, but I don't necessarily want to check online, but it does automatically install NPCap. So we're gonna install, and I'm choosing to install it on my faux C drive here. We're gonna click next, and then it's extracting. Hopefully this does it as quickly as possible, so I don't even have to pause the video. Let's see. No, for wireless adapters, why not? I'll just do this and install, and it's installing it. Looks like it's removing the actual installation file. So once it's installed, it self depletes the actual install files, so it takes at least that information off. It saves space, and it also prevents vulnerabilities regarding the script it takes to install the program. And we're going to click next, and then NPCap has been installed. NPCap allows networks to communicate to your computer and so on and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and click next, and we'll allow it to start menu folder and desktop icon, and we're going to click next, and NMAP has been installed on your computer. Click finish to close the wizard, and let's see. So we have installed NMAP on our system, but let's see if we can get it to connect, or let's see if we can here is the NMAP icon right here, but let's see if we can connect to it from the command line. So we're going to do CMD, and just so you know, to review, we can do IP config, and that gives us this host IP address, which is 64.8, which is different. This host was 64.3, so it makes sense they're on the same subnet. And just so you know, there is another command, I know we keep on adding more, that is ipconfig /all, and that gives us even more information, but I don't want to, this is not a networking class, so let's do CLS to clear this screen, and let's try to do like an actual NMAP command. I don't know if we'll be able to do it. Let's see, looks like we will be able to do it, because the whole purpose of just doing the NMAP command itself and me pressing enter, I know it wasn't proper, but this just shows that we can at least run NMAP from the command line. So let's do CLS to get a nice clean screen, and let's do NMAP 192.168.64.3, which I believe is the IP address of the minimal Windows 11, and let's press enter. Starting NMAP. Okay, so it's going to at least work. It's going to successfully NMAP the system, and it's probably going to take a little bit. I'm afraid I might have to pause the video. I hate doing that because it wreaks havoc on my editing. Most people don't realize that making these videos, making them is only half the battle. The other half is the editing. Okay, so it did complete. Now keep in mind, your amount of seconds on your local system probably will be a little bit better, because you're probably not crazy enough to run two virtualized OSs in your single system, and so you're probably nmapping other things. So these amount of seconds are going to vary, but you can see that all these ports are ignored. So, and that's because on this, I actually once again turned the firewall back on. So let's go ahead and turn the firewall back off. Windows Defender firewall, and then turn firewall on or off. Let's go ahead and turn our firewall off, and then go to OK. And we can see the same message right here, and I'm just going to dismiss it. And let's go ahead and nmap this again, and look at that. We received the same information that our Kali gave us, the same exact information. Okay, it wouldn't be a Python video without the idea of installing and running Python scripts using the NMAP library, and that's what we're going to do now. So it's going to be pip. All you have to do do is you go into your command line interface, press CMD, go to your Windows, press CMD, and then you type in pip install python-nmap. We'll press enter, and we'll just wait for the machine, this Windows machine, to do its magic. So we've already installed NMAP, but in order for the Python library to work, we need to install the NMAP Python library inside of Python, or our Python installation. Now, there are a couple ways to do it, but in this case, we just simply used pip. Pip is, and this is, I do recommend if you're on Windows to use pip to install matplotlib, the Python NMAP library, PyInstaller, and also tkinter. So pip is just a great automated method of installing your other Python libraries. So now that we have the Python NMAP library installed, we can then go into our C automated system, our idle. It took me a second to get to remember idle. I always think of Monty Python and the actor Eric Idle, the comedian Eric Idle. Anyways, we go into our idle using the Python command, and now we're in Python, and we can actually make sure that the import, or shall I say, we can make sure we installed it correctly. All we have to do is simply type in import nmap, and as long as there's no errors, we have successfully imported nmap. We've shown that we've actually successfully installed nmap. So we're going to go ahead, we can say nm equals nmap.port scanner, and then we can go ahead and scan an actual host. So we can say m.scan, and we can scan ourselves, which would be 127.0.0.1. But what fun would that be? We're going to go ahead, we're going to scan the IP address from before, and let me move this over, and that was 64.3, so 192.168.64.3, and that is one parameter. And the next parameter, we're going to choose the most popular ports, that is 22.443 as an example, and we're going to close the single quote and close the parentheses, and we're going to see what that leads us to. Now keep in mind, we are scanning through Python right here, and we can see that we have a lot of the same information that we have here. The difference is we were scanning from within Python. Okay, so there's one more way that we can actually scan. There's one more way we can actually use nmap through Python to make a scan. All right, there's one more way we can scan with nmap. We don't really need the Python nmap library, but we will be using the OS library, so we'll go ahead and import OS, and we simply run a system command. So this is system specific. So that's as if we kind of masqueraded and pretended we were and had admin rights, and then we just ran nmap 192.168.64.3, except we don't need admin rights, as we can just run it through the OS library right here. So we don't necessarily need the nmap library to run it in within Python, but we are using Python, except we're using the OS library, and we're just running this as a system command. And of course, it's going to do the same thing as if we just did nmap 192.64.3. So what's the advantage of running? So we are using Python. What is the advantage? The advantage is that you can automate the task, and sometimes it's a lot easier to do this if you were, for example, controlling and administering, hundreds of terminals, as opposed to just the terminal that you are sitting in front of. So anyways, that is nmap and the wonderful world of Python. Enjoy surveilling and performing reconnaissance on your PCs, and make sure that there's nothing wrong with doing it to your own PC to ensure that there are no vulnerable and open ports.